Hello everyone, welcome to our 49th session, and in this session it is all about mouse click event in the new Unity input system. So if you have ever tried building a game in Unity for both PC and mobile, you have probably slammed right into a really common, really annoying problem. Well, in this session we are going to show you how to solve that cross-platform input headache for good. You know the feeling, right? You have got your game, maybe a simple clicker. You test it out in the Unity editor with your mouse and everything is perfect. Then you build it on your phone, you tap the screen and nothing works. How can code that worked flawlessly just a second ago be totally broken on a different device? What's going on? Well, the culprit is usually a little function called OnMouseDown. For a long time, this was the standard way to detect a click on an object. But you know, in the world we live in now, where games have to run on everything, it has this massive fundamental flaw that can just stop your project dead in its track. So here's the deal. OnMouseDown was built from the ground up just for a mouse. That's it. To the game engine, a finger tapping on a screen is a totally different kind of input. So your mouse click, they work perfectly, but mobile touches, they are flaky at best, and a lot of the time they just don't register at all. And that inconsistency is a total nightmare when you are trying to build for multiple platforms. But thankfully, there is a much better way to do this. Unity's new input system was designed specifically to fix this exact problem. It's the modern professional approach that just gets rid of that inconsistency and lets you write your input code one time and have it work absolutely everywhere. The magic behind this input system is a really cool concept called a pointer. Just think of it like a universal remote for input. It doesn't care if the signal's coming from a mouse click, a finger tap on a screen, or even a stylus pen. To the system, it's all just a pointer. And that simple idea is what makes a universal solution possible. And this one bit of text is the key that unlocks everything. When we bind our input to this path, pointer press, what we are actually telling Unity is, hey listen, I don't care what did the pressing. Could be a mouse, could be a finger, doesn't matter. Just tell me when it happens. It's so powerful and yet so simple. Okay, so that's the theory. But how do we actually put this into practice? Let's dive into the code and build this thing out step by step. We are going to walk through the logic to handle this in a really clean and efficient way, all from a single script. Before we even look at a single line of C#, let's just get the high-level plan straight. It just really boils down to 4 simple steps. 1. We tell our game to listen for that universal press event. 2. When it happens, we grab the position of that press on the screen. 3. We shoot an invisible laser beam called ray from our camera through the screen position and out into our game world. And 4. If that ray hits one of our target, we just tell it, hey, you have been hit. So pretty straightforward. Alright, here is our first piece of the puzzle. With this line, we are actually creating our input action right inside the code. We are telling it to act like a button, you know, and one of kind of thing, and we are binding it to that magical pointer/press path we just talked about. This one action is now listening for clicks, taps, anything, but just knowing what a press happened isn't enough, right? We need to know where it happened. So the second line creates another action. This time its type is value because it is meant to hold data, not just to be on or off. We bind it to a pointer/position, and now it will give you the exact x and y coordinates of the tap or click on the screen. So now we have got the what and the where, and this brings up to a really crucial shift in how we think about input. With the old way, we were probably checking for clicks every single frame in our update loop. That's not super efficient. The new system is way smarter because it's event driven. Our code just sits back and relaxes until the system taps it on the shoulder and says, hey, a press event has happened. Then and only then they react. And this is how we do the reacting. Inside our update function, this little check is our gatekeeper. WasPressedThisFrame is only true for the one single frame that the press or tap begins. It's like a flash of lightning. This makes sure that all of our logic, especially the heavy stuff like raycasting, only runs once per step. Super efficient. So once our gatekeeper lets us through, we take that screen position and use it to peek into our 3D world. This ScreenPointToRay function is the bridge between the 2D screen and the 3D scene. It takes the pixel coordinate of the tap and just fires that invisible 3D line ray straight from the camera's eye through that point and onto that gate. Now here is a quick pro tip, but it's a big one. When you cast that ray by default, it's going to check for collisions with literally everything. To make your game run a lot faster, go into the inspector, create a special layer called target and put all your clickable objects on it. Then just tell your raycast only look for things on that specific layer. That way you are not wasting time checking if you click the skybox or if you click the other objects. And this is the final piece of the puzzle. If our ray hits something on the right layer, we check if that object has our special target script on it, and if it does, we know we have hit a winner and we can just call on our hit method. And that's where the magic happens. Destroying the object, adding to the score, playing a sound, whatever you want. So now that we are going through the whole step, let's just zoom out for a second and really quickly recap why this approach is just so much better than sticking with the old OnMouseDown way of doing things. The benefits are just huge. First and foremost, you write code once and it works everywhere. Mouse, touch, pen, you name it. Plus, all your input logic is neatly tucked away in one central script, which makes it a breeze to manage and add new features later. Want to add scoring, combo logic? It's easy. Want to trigger cool particle effects or make the phone vibrate on a hit? It all goes right there. It's just a way more robust and professional way to build our game. And that's really all there is to do it. With this one technique, that frustrating barrier between platforms for clicking and tapping just completely disappears. So now let us practically implement this concept in our UI prototyping project. As usual, let us start by launching Unity Hub, come into the project, and we can continue from the UI_prototype 2 which we completed in our previous session. Or if you doesn't have these project files, don't worry, you can come into the new project and in the template select SRP Universal 3D and in the project name call this as UI_prototype 3 and in eUnity project folder I will click on create project. Now as the project is getting loaded, come into the YouTube video page or in the e-learning description page. Scroll down and in description click on more. You have a Patreon link. Click on this link and come into the Patreon page of Junior Programmer series. If you scroll down, you find this 49 mouse down in Unity new input system start.unitypackage file. Click on this to download it. If required, download Sartvic_layout WLT file also. Once Unity is launched, come into the project window and select the README file. And in the inspector, click on remove readme asset and in the confirmation box click on proceed. We don't need this input systems_action file also. Right click and choose delete and in the confirmation box click on delete. Now if your screen layout doesn't resemble the layout that you are seeing here, come to the top right corner, click on this layout and choose Sartvic layout. If Sartvic layout is missing, come to load layout from file, browse to your download folder, select Sartvic_layout.wlt file and click on open. Your layout and the layout you see in the video will be the same. Now coming into the project panel, click on asset, right click and choose import package custom package. Now come to your download folder and select the just downloaded 49_mousedown Unity package and click on open. In the import Unity package dialog box, click on import. Once the import is complete, come into the project window, open scene and double click UI_prototype to open it. Select the sample scene, right click and choose delete. Click on the delete button. Come into the hierarchy and select background. Come into the scene view and press F. Then Alt left mouse click to turn around and see the area. Enable the 2D button here so that you see it in the 2D view. Now if I play the game and check this game, in our previous session we had created the spanning of our objects like this. And our next Whenever the user clicks on these objects, we want those objects to be destroyed. I will stop the playback. We are not going to use the regular OnMouseDown or the old input system. We are going to solve it with the new input system. Let us come into the project script, and we had created our singleton project, the main control script called as the GameManager. Double click to open this. If it asks to trust the author, click on yes, I trust the author. Coming into our GameManager, in the previous session we had declared these 3 variables, and these 3 variables comes into the category of spanning. So after this open flower bracket, I will press enter and I will add open close square bracket, and I am going to add this a header. And in open close bracket, inside this I will add inverted comma, and I am going to call this as spanning controls. Come here, after declaring the game object list target, I will press enter twice, and now I am going to declare some variable for my new input system mouse click. The first variable I am going to declare is private, and the type of this variable is camera, and I am going to call this as main camera and end it with semicolon. Why do we need camera? Because the raycast rays comes from the camera, and after the camera I am going to press private, declare a LayerMask type of variable, and I am going to call this as target layer and end it with semicolon. This is because when the raycast of the main camera comes and hits the object, only the object in the target layer should be affected. So for that we are creating a new layer called as target layer. Then I will press enter and I will declare the third variable private. It's a float variable, and I will call this as ray distance, and I will set its value to 1000f and end it with semicolon. I will come above this private camera main camera, add open close square bracket, and inside this I will call the header, and in open close bracket I am going to call this in inverted comma input system controls. The variable main camera, target layer and ray distance has to be assessed from my inspector, but I have made it private. So to assess a private variable through the inspector, we use a keyword called as in open close square bracket inside this serialize field, and I will come out of this bracket and press space, and I will copy this serialize field and I will paste it in this target layer also, press space, and for this ray distance also I will paste it. I will press enter, and I am now going to declare another 2 variable private. I am going to call this new input action type of variable, and I am going to call this as press action and end it with semicolon. I am going to declare another private input action variable, and I am going to call this as position action and end it with semicolon. In these variables, for ray distance there is a spelling mistake. I will correct the spelling here. Once all our variables are declared, as soon as the game is launched and before the start, and this state we call it as awake. So I will come into private void awake, and after this instance this, I will press enter twice, and first I am going to test for a condition if, and in open close bracket, if my main camera is equal to 2 equal signs null. If it is not attached with any object, then because it is only one line, I am not going to add any flower bracket. I am going to declare my main camera equal to camera.main, and I will end it with semicolon. I am going to set my input action. Adding to forward slashes, this is new input system for both touch and mouse click. I am going to call my press action variable, and I will set it equal to a new input action, and in open close bracket now I have to declare certain parameters here. If you remember, in our previous session we came into Unity and we declared it using the create input action command, and instead of creating it using the user interface, we are creating this input action here through code. Inside this bracket I will press enter, and the first value is name colon, and I am going to call this in inverted comma as press, where P is capital. Then I will end it with comma. This is the first parameter that I have to attach. Then the second parameter is type. I will call input action type press period, and this is a button. Add comma. I will call the binding parameter in inverted comma in lesser than greater than sign. Inside this I am going to call it as a pointer / and this is press. Finally, I will end this with semicolon. Position action equal to new input action, and again in open close brackets. Now inside this I will press enter and name in inverted comma position, come out of the inverted comma and add comma, type input action type. I will call this input action type period. The type here is value. Add a comma. We are going to use the binding in inverted comma lesser than greater than sign, and inside this we are going to call it as a pointer, and coming out of the greater than sign add / and I will call this as position. So the binding is set to position. So we have now declared our press action, position action and our main camera in our awake code block. As you already remember, in our new input system we have to use this on enable and on disable functions. I will come out of this awake code block, void on enable, and inside this bracket I am now going to call my press action period enable, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon, position action, and I will press period enable. So I have to enable both of them in my enable code block. Then I will come out of this enable code block, press enter. I will call void, and this time I will call for this on disable. Inside this again I will call press action period disable, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon, and similarly position action period disable, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. Now to handle our mouse click or the mouse tap, after this update code block I will press enter and I am going to declare a new function and I will call this as HandleTapOrClick. So here HTO and R are capital, add open close bracket, press enter and in open close flower bracket, here I am going to declare actual action that should happen when the user clicks or taps his phone. The very first condition is this should be called only when user presses any button or taps his phone. So for that I will add a if condition and in open close bracket I am going to call for this press action period, call this WasPressedThisFrame, add open close bracket, and this condition if it is false I will add an exclamation mark. If I just add an exclamation mark, this means that when the user has not pressed the mouse or when he has not tapped the phone, then this entire function will be returned. Nothing is going to execute. After this open bracket, add two forward slashes. This will trigger only once per tap or click. And next comes, however, any UI touches. If I want to ignore it, I will add two forward slashes and I am going to ignore UI touches. And for this, I will add another condition if, and inside this, I will call event system period current if it is not equal to null, and I will add two ampersand sign. Event system period current call is point over game object, open close flower bracket, then I am going to return, end it with semicolon. So accidentally when the user touches the phone or for all those UI touches, this function will not be executed. These two lines we added to improve the efficiency or the performance of our game. I need to get the position where exactly the tap or the click had occurred. Add two forward slashes, get position of click or tap. I will declare a vector2 type of temporary variable and I am going to call this as screen position, and this will be equal to call my position action period, and in that we are going to read the value. I will add lesser than and greater than sign, and the type of value here is it is a vector2 value, and after this I will add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. I want in the forward slashes I will mention generate a raycast ray from the camera towards the click point. I am going to now declare another variable, and the type of this variable is it is a ray, and I will call it as ray where R is small letter, and this will be equal to I will call my main camera period and I will call the function ScreenPointToRay, and in open close bracket I will end it with semicolon, and where it should point to this screen position. So this is now going to generate a ray from the camera to the place where exactly the user has clicked. I will press enter and I will call an if statement now. And here in if, I am going to call physics period raycast. I will add open close bracket and it has 3 parameters here. The first is the ray that we have declared above. Then I will call it is outward and I will call raycast hit. When it goes and hits any of the object, it is going to be allotted to a new variable called hit where h is small letter, comma. I am then going to call my ray distance, the variable that we have declared, comma, call my target layer. This is become rad distance, this is ray distance. If the physical raycast, the ray that has gone and hit, it generates a variable called hit, and if it is on the target layer, then I will press enter and add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket target game object, and I will call this as target, and this will be equal to, I will take this hit value and take the collider. In that I am going to get the component. I am going to get the component not from the same component but from the parent. Get component in parent. I will add lesser than greater than sign, and the parameter I am going to get is the target script attached to that object. I will add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. So the variable target, which is of the type target, will be equal to the object on which my raycast ray has gone and hit, and from that object we are going to take this target script attached to it, and then I will test the condition if this target is not equal to null, that is if it is not empty, then I will press enter, add open close bracket, and inside this is where exactly I have to write what should happen when the tap or the press has happened. When this target is hit, I want my game object to disappear. I will come into my targets.cs file. I will scroll down, and after this vector 3, I will press enter and declare a public void function, and I am going to call this as OnHit. Add open close bracket, and in open close flower bracket, when this function is called, then I want to destroy, and in open close bracket end it with semicolon, and inside this I am going to destroy this game object. So this function I have put it in my target file, and I am going to save this. Now coming back to my GameManager.cs, and inside this if statement, I am now going to call my target period and this function OnHit. Add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. I will go to file and save this, and I am seeing some error here, and if I scroll up and just check it, you can see that in line number 48, that is after I have declared press action and position action, for position action I have forgotten to add semicolon. So this was an error that existed in this script. We have declared our HandleTapOrClick function completely, and now we have to call this function. And where are we going to call it? In the void update code block, I am going to call this HandleTapOrClick function, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. I will come into file and save my GameManager.cs file. Now come back to Unity, allow the script to get compiled. Once the script is compiled, I have to first come here into the hierarchy and I am going to select the Game Manager. I will come into the inspector here. In the input system control, you have the main camera. I am now going to drag my main camera from the hierarchy and attach it to this main camera here. Then I have to set the target layer. How to define this target layer? In the inspector, on the right hand side you have layer and it is currently set to default. Click here and choose add layer. So you have multiple layers here and you can see as of now user layer 3 is empty. I am going to call this as target layer. I will come back to my hierarchy, select this UI prototype, come into my project panel, select my prefab and I am going to select bad one. With shift pressed I select till good 3. Come into the inspector and in the layer I will click here and choose the target layer. Bad 1, bad 2, good 1, good 2 and good 3 are attached with the layer target layer. Now I will come back to Game Manager and here in the target layer I will click on this drop down and select the target layer. I am now going to file, save it, and now if I execute the game and if I check it, see as soon as it spans, see when I click on it, see it gets destroyed. So whenever I click on the object, so you can see it is getting destroyed. But one other last thing that we have to define here is, if I doesn't click, you can see here that my game objects are continuously getting added into my hierarchy. And this is going to affect our performance. So I will stop the playback. If you come into the hierarchy, there is one game object created here called as sensor. Now if I double click on sensor, if you come into the scene view, you can see here a empty object added with a collider. This collider has a size along the x10 axis and y2 axis and z10 axis. This will act as a sensor so that whenever the game object jumps and collides with this sensor, automatically it should get destroyed. I will select the sensor and come into the tag. I will click here and I am going to add a tag. And I click on plus here and I will call this tag also as sensor. Now come back to hierarchy, select the sensor and in the tag I am going to attach it with the tag sensor. I am now going to come into my target script, open it, and after this OnHit, I am now going to call for built-in function which is onTriggerEnter. Call this onTriggerEnter function. I am now going to first test if, and I am going to call my other game object for this compare tag, and in open close bracket, if this tag is equal to sensor, I will come out of this bracket, add open close flower bracket. I will press enter. I am going to destroy open close bracket and end it with semicolon, and inside this I am going to call game object. When my object goes and hits any object with the tag sensor, then that object is going to get destroyed. Now I will come to file, save it, come back to Unity and allow the script to compile. In this sensor, if you come and see here in the box collider, each trigger should be enabled. Now if I play the game and if I check it, as the game starts, even if I doesn't click, when the game object comes and touches or crosses this sensor, see it is getting destroyed. And also when I click with the mouse, it gets destroyed. This logic is now working fine. Our next session is about adding a score so that when the user clicks and destroys it, I need a scoreboard to show me that how many objects I have destroyed. I need a scoreboard to run, and this scoreboard we are going to add it in our next session. So I will now stop the game and I will go to file and save it. So let us meet in our next session.